Good evening, everyone. I would like to talk about Unit 5 and everything that I've taken from this unit that I've learned and would apply in the classroom today. Backwards mapping and unpacking of standards have shown me how to be smart in maximizing learning and proved to be a pivotal planning process in the unit. This is a practical process for using standards to design a course syllabus and, of course, a unit, as mentioned. Backwards mapping and unpacking of standards are ways to promote greater consistency. This unit was particularly enjoyable as I'm able to apply all the tricks that I've learned. The planning of the unit was quite a complex process. I had to assess which subject I wanted to focus on. I'm currently teaching 3 different subjects to second grade students, so this was quite complicated. After a discussion with the new teacher, we decided that the Chinese students are struggling with reading comprehension. This led me to thinking about reading comprehension in math. Honestly, even though Chinese students are competent in math, they have always struggled with word problems. They lack critical thinking skills that are essential in surviving in the 21st century classroom. Initially, after deciding on word problems and addition and subtraction, the process of planning the unit came together really nicely. I did a lot of research and found various activities that I will ignite learning in my students and make them more engaged during my math lessons. After taping my lesson, I reflected on everything that I would do differently. And being typically overcritical, I did the corrections based on the timing of the lesson and the length of the period. Our lessons are really short in comparison with schools in the US and even South Africa. At 40 minutes per lesson, the lesson plans were jam-packed full of information with a small time frame to deliver the content to the students. I still believe in the goals that I inserted in my unit plan, and I feel like my students have done really well to grasp the concept of solving word problems. Gone are the days where the whole class would raise their hands because they are seeing a word problem that was impossible to solve in the beginning of the lesson. Now they are looking at word problems and thinking like real problem solvers. I've rarely seen a student raise their hands to ask a question on how to solve a word problem or even what words they are looking at. That in itself is a massive improvement. My students have evolved to 21st century learners that will thrive in a Western society. Well, I would like to think that. Anyways, upon reflecting on the lesson plans, I found that the students are really engaged when they can work together in a collaborative setting. And I wish that I could implement collaborative learning more. The students enjoy working together and I enjoy seeing them improve as the result. The lesson planning process is quite different than what I was used to. It's comprehensive, and even for myself, who is a detailed and probably over-analytical thinker, it was something to get used to. I took more time on these lesson plans and discovered that the lesson plan has so much more to it than just a simple TEFL course's warmer, presentation, production, and application phases. The insights and advantages that I gained by knowing what skills my learners will use in a given lesson astonished me. The fact that they can think cognitively, solve problems, do collaborative learning, and peer-to-peer assessments are amazing. I never thought that they would be able to achieve these skills in second grade. One of the TAs in the other classes always mentioned that they are still babies in second grade. However, with the skills that they are learning now, it shows me that they are more than just babies. They have evolved into what a modern learner should be. Teaching and taping the lesson was fun. The TA and students enjoyed it, and I initially thought that they were a little nervous to appear in front of a camera, as some of the more outspoken students in my homeroom were suddenly a little bit shyer. However, I was really happy to hear great feedback from Henry and Anna, both for whom I have a tremendous amount of respect for. It's one thing to have the confidence to be a teacher, but it's another thing to hear that you are doing a superb job, especially from teachers who have an amazing amount of experience in the field. There are always ways to improve, and being the nerd that I am, I will always look for ways and be open-minded to accept feedback that will help me to improve. And I thought brought up a good point with effective praise, and the insight that I've gained from that comment is invaluable. I can't thank her enough for bringing that to my attention. I would like to highlight 2 parts of the unit that was critical for implementation. The first part is the fact that the students learned about word problems, vocabulary, and steps to solve a word problem. This proved to be essential as they were able to solve various equations quickly and effectively. The group assignment, where they had to create their own word problems, proved to be a wonderful tool as students were able to take part in collaborative learning, which helped them to communicate, become creative, and be efficient word problem solvers. With these 2 integral parts, my students evolved from traditional Chinese learners to modern critically thinking collaborative learners who can actually solve word problems with minimal effort. The summative assessment took place on the 26th of January, and I'm glad to report that my students put in a tremendous effort to pass their final math exam. How did the planning process help you to determine how to know whether students were meeting the objectives? Well, the planning process was an integral part of the overall success of my students. The fact that formative assessments were part of the unit helped me to evaluate their progress, and I saw that most of my students were able to identify the clue words without struggling. They were also able to recall the 4 steps with ease. I used various formative assessments to check their progress, which include the whiteboards, questions and answers, group discussions, and creating their own word problems. Students who met the objective showed efficiency in answering the questions related to word problems. They were able to identify the clue words associated with word problems, and they were also able to solve equations using the 4 steps and showing their work by writing a number sentence. They also met objectives if they were able to work in groups with project-based learning lessons, as well as creating their own word problems with the group while working together effectively. The students were engaged throughout the unit, and I found that they were very active in the learning process, although admittedly my homeroom did perform better than the other class as they were more engaged. They also paid better attention and they reviewed the work regularly. It really helps having a good TA in the classroom to manage the class and to make sure that they stay on task. The summative assessment in the form of their final exam took place on Friday, and the students performed exceptionally well. The formative assessments in the form of whiteboards, collaborative learning and discussions were well received, and the kids were really interested in working together. Checking their understanding proved to be the easy part, as the students are always eager to show off their work, especially if they are confident in the final product. In conclusion, I would like to say that doing regular formative assessments have helped me to assess the needs of my students, and it has made me a more effective teacher. This unit was a revelation to me, and I feel like I'm ready to take the next step to improve myself. Thank you for watching.
Papà l'americano